The biggest takeaways from Tennessee football in week 1 of fall camp, plus anybody separating themselves in the quarterback competition. All that and more. It's Tuesday, Locked On Vols.
You are Locked On Vols, your daily podcast on the Tennessee Volunteers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, good Tuesday morning, everybody. Welcome into Locked On Vols, your number one spot for Tennessee football news and entertainment 5 days a week, weekday mornings when you wake up. A part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every single day. I'm your host, Eric Cain, a member of the VolQuest.com team here in town, bringing you Tennessee Volunteers coverage every single day. And, of course, right here, host of Locked On Vols. Appreciate you guys for being here and making Locked On Vols your first listen each and every single morning. Every day is your show is coming up. Your part of the show is coming up in segment number 2, where we'll do mailbag questions, scouting the opponent with Georgia Bulldogs in week 3, coming up in segment number 3. But first, Ryan Schumpert of Rocky Top Insider going to join me here for a segment number 1 conversation. Tennessee football opening week of fall camp, the biggest takeaways, quarterbacks, defense, and so much more. Here's my conversation with Rocky Top Insider's Ryan Schumpert. Ryan, so week 1 is in the books, starting week 2 with practice coming up this morning. Any big takeaways? I know week 1 was, the helmets for the majority of times, got the shoulder pads on the last 2 days. We don't know an awful lot right now, but some of the big takeaways you've had through the first 4 practices.
Yeah, I think past just who's out there, the injuries, Boo Carter, quarterback, that type of stuff. I think maybe the 2 things that stand out. One, the safety position. I think Caleb Beasley looks a lot more physically put together than he did year 1. I think I had some skepticism of this guy's going to at least be in the thick of a competition to start safety when he came in as a corner and was a really lanky guy as a true freshman. But you look at him, he's put on a lot of good weight. It seems like Idris Farouk has always been a guy that looks great coming off the bus. So I'd say I am more intrigued by that competition. And I think kind of just to that point, I think there's a lot of young talent on this team, freshman talent specifically, that they don't look like freshmen physically. Travis Smith and Rodarius Jackson would match that. Jack Van Dorselaer would match that. But even on the defensive line, where you kind of don't expect, you kind of expect the freshmen to look like freshmen. Ethan Utley looks incredible. Marion Dye looks really good. So I think you continue to see Tennessee look more and more physically like a top-end SEC team. And that's been the case every year. And not that I expected them to take a step back in that front last year, but just given the number of 4th, 5th-year guys they lost, I wondered if, maybe we wouldn't see another jump, even though Tennessee's, blue chip ratio has gone up. But no, to me, just looking at this team, it feels like they've taken another step in that direction from a getting off the bus, just a pure physicality and athletic standpoint of getting one step closer to those top-end teams in the country.
Yeah, Isaiah Campbell's one of those guys that you weren't bringing those guys that look like that on campus, 5-6 years ago, and he was a guy that you weren't even mentioned. I know he's in that realm as well. Ethan Utley looks great, and he still needs to put on 20 or 30 pounds. He already looks really, really good. So, on that note, just kind of a fun exercise here. Who's your top 5 off the bus right now? I don't know if I have 5 off the top of my head, but Isaiah Campbell's one of them. Jeremiah's hurt. I don't know if he can play.
Yeah,
but he's number 1 off my bus. Those are 2 that come to mind for me.
He towers over his cousin Lance Hurd, and Lance Hurd's a big dude. So Arian Carter's got to be in there. I think I'd throw Edwin Spillman in there too.
Yeah.
Deshaun Bishop, maybe. Especially if he's wearing the Ezekiel Elliott crop top like he likes to wear, at least in practice. Those are some guys that at least have to be in the conversation, I think.
For the first time in 6 years, we can't say Elijah Simmons, and it's heartbreaking.
I know. It is heartbreaking.
Elijah Simmons is number 1 off that bus. But Tennessee looks good for sure. And it's kind of funny, our practice viewing periods, when we're allowed to be out there, the only takeaways we have are on the offensive end. We can do personnel, and if this coach is in a good mood, or this coach was talking to this player on defense. But, the defensive line is doing bag drills the entire time we're out there. Linebackers are doing, stands, run fits, stuff like that, some cage work. The corners are, split from the safeties and the stars, and they're doing some stuff in open field. But, there's not a whole lot of takeaways on the defensive side of the football that we can draw when we're out there. And when I'm doing my practice reports every day and my practice observations, I'm like, man, I need to say something about defense, but we just don't get to see an awful lot. And it's a shame because, again, that's going to lead this team. That's going to be the strong suit of this team. And once again, I think defense is going to be able to, keep Tennessee where there's so many questions offensively, and hopefully, we get some separation in quarterback this week and so on and so forth. Defensively, is going to keep Tennessee in games once again this year.
Absolutely. And I think to your point, it's only going to get harder for us because at least this first week we can do a lot of how guys are physically looking. We haven't seen them in a couple months, that type of stuff, and we're going to run out of that this week. So, no, you're right. It's tough. I feel like I can get to about 450, 500 words writing about the offense every day, and then it's like, all right, let's scrap together 200 to have at least a little bit on the defense. So you're right. I think, look, you feel good about some of the guys they have out there. It's the Jermon McCoy thing is so tricky because I think they are good behind them. I don't think that they're going to be terrible, but Jermon McCoy is a game-changing player, so it's just a different beast. And yeah, I think the defensive line is again where who can take a step forward as an edge rusher to be a dude. Can they get a fourth defensive tackle to emerge and be a really solid option? Those are kind of the questions we have, and you maybe feel like you learn a little bit during practice, but we're certainly not going to feel definite about any of that stuff until the Vols take the field and in Atlanta against Syracuse, and really probably until a couple weeks down the road from there as we see them in more and more action.
Yeah, we're going to talk about Georgia coming up later in the show, doing a scouting the opponent series, week 3, Georgia Bulldogs, so that's going to be fun. Another one of those guys, first 5 off the bus on the defensive line, Tyree Weathersby, for sure, is there for me. Let's go to offense, man.
David Hobbs, too. I'll throw another one on defense. David
It's
Hobbs.
That number 5 jersey, man, right? I mean, it's like Hobbs is in 5, Ethan Utley's in 17. You had Elijah Simmons in years past were number 10. Something about big boys and small jersey numbers. Sign me up. I love it.
Hobbs is going to be – I need him to be really good this year because I'm just going to continually fall into the trap of hyping him up every season. I did it last year, and it's not, for a sophomore, his role was fine, but I need a bigger season for him to truly be pumping the hype train the way I want to.
No doubt about it. All right, so we got to see these quarterbacks throw some passes, routes on air. Obviously, you, me, everybody else that's been in attendance. In our notes, obviously not the sharpest of periods and routes on air, and again, no reason to be overreactionary to that because that's not real football. I'm gonna, as I said in yesterday's show, the quarterback play might be bad this year. I don't know. I don't think it'll be horrible, but I'm going to learn a lot after these padded practices and, of course, the scrimmage on Saturday. But some observations you've had from the 3 quarterbacks so far. Who does what well? Tell me if you disagree. I don't think there's been any separation amongst the 3 this week, but I'm expecting hopefully a little separation, at least maybe 2 break away from the pack at some point this week.
No, I would agree with that. I think I would probably say Merklinger when you look at the 4 practices, and again, the 5 minutes of practice of routes on air that we've seen has probably been the best, but there hasn't been a ton of separation. And I think you look at what they're doing too. A lot of short routes, a lot of throws from the line of scrimmage to 15 yards down the field, and not a bunch of stuff down the field. And I think that's kind of what Tennessee is at least hoping, that Aguilar, that's kind of the track record. He throws a good deep ball. I think that's a question mark about Merklinger's. How was he throw it down the field? So, what we've seen would skew a little bit towards Merklinger being a little bit better. And I think with MacIntyre, I think you can see it from just the fact, 1, he's a true freshman, 2, who he's throwing to. He's the clear third guy in this competition. I would tip my cap to him. He had a rough first day, maybe first 2 days. I feel like he's bounced back really well and has thrown the ball accurately since then. So, agree, not a ton of separation. I have thought more than anything, I don't know about your thoughts, some of the just stuff we've seen them do in routes on air, I think is what's been really interesting. We had one day they were doing the rollout throws. It seemed like play action out of pistol. On Sunday, they had some kind of tighter splits on some of the routes they were running. For Joey Halls, we talked about it before fall camp started last Tuesday. That's been a big thing all offseason, is how do we have more success when we see some of these 3-3-5 defenses that play a lot of prevent coverage. And we'll see, what it actually looks like in the games. But from what the little we see in practice, it does seem like there are some level of adjustments that they have made to how they're doing things entering the season.
Yeah, those tighter splits. Again, I'm not saying it's not going to happen, but it's one of those Brent Hub style. I'll believe it when I actually see it happen because they are so wide. But to your point, they've motioned out of that slot before, thrown like bubble screens out of that. They've gone the bootleg out of the pistol. I think that was Friday, maybe Thursday or whatever it was.
Day two,
Joey Aguilar shined in that period. I mean, I think
and Merklinger struggled.
Yeah, I think clearly he's the better one throwing on the run, and that makes sense, right? He's got experience and all that. And as far as George, I would agree with you. I think he's number 3 in this battle right now. I also think, and maybe this is too premature to say, I think he can be the best one of all 3 of them, down the line. He's got to put on some weight and all that, but I think from an intangible standpoint and all that. So interested to see what the quarterbacks do this week for sure. Moving on, the last thing I want to talk to you about, a couple of receivers have been out injured, this week, and nothing long-term or anything, but they missed some practice. Receivers thin, came in thin, super thin through week 1. The tight ends have looked phenomenal. Interested to see how Brame specifically kind of adjust to pads on, inline, hand in the dirt stuff. But I've been really, really impressed with the tight ends, man. I think that's been one of the brightest spots for Tennessee through week 1.
Completely agree. Those were 2 guys, especially Van Dorsler, so I should have mentioned with the freshmen that just look physically extremely well put together. I think there's always an element of kind of that Brent Hub see it to believe it when it comes to freshman tight ends, because it's just what they're doing in high school is so different than what they're going to be asked to do blocking in the SEC. But those guys look good. And, I just is just a pure speculation vibes thing. Like I think Heupel would love nothing more than this offense to get back to being aggressive, throwing the ball down the field, hitting plays, chunk plays like they did in 21 and 22, which is, again, for amongst many other reasons why I think it makes a lot more sense for Aguilar to get the first crack at this thing when they take the field. But we've also seen Heupel be willing to adjust and do different things for what it takes to win games. And I don't know. I continue to think that just you look at the personnel of that group, you look at how thin they are at receiver and how deep they are at tight end, and the fact that they're going to run the ball well, they're going to play good defense. It continues to make me think that if they don't hit the ground running offensively, things could look a lot like they did last year with a lot of 12 personnel and Tennessee playing pretty conservatively on that end of the field.
Yeah, lean into your strengths. Right now, what is the strength for Tennessee? It is not wide receiver. It is a strength for Tennessee would be tight end. That means 12 personnel. And again, you said Josh Heupel, his evolution as a head coach, doing things, winning in different ways. I mean, if you get a win, do that. So I'm with you there. I mean, if Tennessee is not explosive down the field out of the gate or anything, I would also lean into heavy 12 personnel because you've got 3 and hopefully 4. I mean, again, I think this week will tell us some things, with Brame. I think you got 3 you can count on right now and hopefully a 4th one as well. So ever wish managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning for a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just another budgeting app. It is a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, your investments, your spending in one place. So in addition to just managing your money, you're also building wealth. I've got money being pulled out of this account and this account and this account from this revenue stream or from this subscription service or from this, mortgage or, whatever it is, right? Utilities over here. I get paid through this account from one job, through this account from the other job. Monarch, it's all there in one place so that I know exactly what's going on, where my money's going, how I'm getting paid. It really, really helps me, and I'm scatterbrained a lot. So it helps me. I think it can help you as well. Plus, there's so many different other avenues in the way that you can get the most out of your Monarch Money membership as well. So take control of your finances today with Monarch Money. Use the promo code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Great deal. That's monarchmoney.com, promo code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. Check out our friends over at Monarch Money. Every Dayers, it is your time to shine right here for the mailbag portion of your Locked On Vols. We do every single Tuesday here, every single week. So I really appreciate you guys for sending in your questions. So I'm going to work through here. Got about 6 or 7 questions from social media or the YouTube channel or whatever it is. I appreciate you guys sending those in. We'll start with Richardson here. Will they use pass-catching tight ends like Ethan Davis or Deshaun Brame in the slot more this year due to the lack of depth at wide receiver? Seems like they could have weapons in the passing game. That's a really good question, right? And we kind of made jokes about it early on, but you're getting to a point now to where we always knew, and Ryan and I literally just talked about this a little bit, right? You always knew that you were coming into the season kind of low on depth at wide receiver, where one injury or two could really hurt you. Now, again, Chris Bradley's going to be back at practice here soon. Mike Matthews was told that it was super precautionary. He's going to be back at practice, sometime this week as well. So, again, in fall camp, like I said on yesterday's show, you're not going to take any chances. But, say you have a guy or two that's missing for a couple of weeks, that's not a good thing. Whereas you think and you hope as camp goes on that the tight end position proves that it can really be depended on, not just Miles Goodson and Ethan Davis, but these two freshmen, Jack Van Dorselaer, Desan Brame. Ethan Davis, Desan Brame, very similar backgrounds, pass-catching weapons at the high school round, learning how to play inline stuff, and that's the challenge for Desan Brame. So could Tennessee use those two tight ends or the tight end position in general to kind of overcompensate for the low numbers of wide receivers at times this year? Maybe it would still be straight 12 personnel, but with those guys on the field, you could see them flex out or being sent in motion and create some mismatches as well. So I know a lot of fans don't want to do 12 personnel or anything, but you got to play to your strengths, like we talked about in segment number 1, and I think that might be one. So yeah, if Tennessee's not explosive out of the gates, or you're not getting a whole lot of production from your wide receivers, or kind of where you want to be in that regard, sure, it wouldn't shock me whatsoever if you ran a lot of 12 personnel and then flexed those guys out, or just ran 12 personnel and they were flexed out to begin with. It would still be 12 personnel in my opinion, but I don't think you're going to see a straight, Braylon Staley out, Desan Brame in, right? I mean, Braylon Staley's probably going to be one of your more productive ones, but it could be Braylon Staley out there along with Mike Matthews, along with Miles Goodson and Ethan Davis. You know what I'm saying? So I would be on the lookout for that, in my opinion. We'll see how it goes, and hopefully Tennessee certainly will get some explosiveness from the wide receiver position. The Grizzly. Do you guys think that it would be a legit possibility that George MacIntyre could have a role in the offense this season? I feel like the best things about quarterback I've heard to this point has been from George. From the way he looks, the throws, he looks like a future Heisman finalist. Do you guys see it, or is it just me? I would slow the roll in Heisman finalist right now. I know you're not talking about this year. But again, as I mentioned to Ryan a couple moments ago, I think that he could have the highest ceiling and be the best one of the three right now. It's just so far through 4 practices, he looks like a freshman, and that's okay. I mean, he's got to put on some weight just like Nico did, and he's got a lot of room to grow in that regard. I think from a technical standpoint, his wind up and his throwing motion needs to be a little bit tighter. I think Jake Merklinger is much better from where he was this time last year. Obviously, Jey Aguilar has got the quickest release, and he's a veteran. He's played a lot of football. Do I think he could have a role in the offense this year? I'm never say never, right? Do I think he wins the job out of camp right now? No, that's just my opinion. Do I think that he can maybe play at some point this year? I guess that just depends on how the season goes, right? The starter named out of camp, does he run with the job? Do they play 2? Is there an injury? What happens? I think that there's a lot of different possibilities out there. You hope that the winner of the job in camp runs with it, doesn't give it up, and of course stays healthy. But that's not always, how it's planned, right? Georgia, who we'll speak about here in a moment, in scouting the opponent series, had a quarterback with one arm come in and hand it off to win the SEC championship game last year. Like, football, again, is a contact sport. So I think George has got so much high upside. I really like his makeup, his knowledge of the game. I think that he's really good out of the pocket as well. I just think that he's got a little ways to go, and that's okay. True freshman, that is absolutely normal. That's, of course, just all my opinion. I'm not much of a football coach. Mr. Jones, you asked me this question last week, and I'm sorry I missed it. I'm seeing it today, and I want to do some more research, okay? So if you'll allow me to answer this at a later date. He wants to know, essentially, throughout Tennessee Vols history, what are the most notable times a star player has had a significant injury and then had an impressive bounce back following the season upon returning? Great question. There's a couple that come to mind right now, but I want to get a list for you, so let's revisit that next week. This is from Steven. There's been a lot of talk about the linebacker unit. I remember him being a big recruit, but haven't heard anything about Christian Gass. Is he going to contribute on special teams this season? Christian Gass is going to play the edge. He was recruited, as a hybrid linebacker / Leo type guy. I think when they got to campus in the spring, he's been on the defensive line with the Leos the entire time. Right now, he is currently injured. I'm not sure, what the deal is there, but he has not been practicing. He was not in a helmet or shoulder pads the other day. He was off to the side working. He missed a lot of time in spring ball as well. So right now, he just needs to get on the field. And then he would, start getting reps and all that. I don't see him being much of a factor at the Leo position this year. But special teams, sure, I could see that. Got to get healthy first. Let's go to Taylor. What's Tennessee's next quarterback target now that Jace Johnson is off to Texas A&M? This seems like another Jake Merklinger pivot, like how they did the year after Nico committed. On paper, I think that makes some sense. No coach is ever going to say that out loud, right? Merklinger was also a top 10 quarterback, highly rated 4-star, really, really good quarterback in the state of Georgia. So Jake Merklinger in the recruiting rankings was no slouch, but I know what you're saying, not a top 50 player or a 5-star or something like that. Good question in terms of who they pivot to. Jace Johnson, really, really talented player, committed to Texas A&M a couple years ago. Be on the lookout for a guy by the name of Malachi Ziegler. Malachi Ziegler from Louisiana, okay? 6'3", 195, 200 pounds, quarterback. Rivals does not have him inside the Rivals top 300. National rankings, according to the Rival industry rankings, when they compile 247 ESPN and Rivals, has him as prospect number 172 and the 13th ranked quarterback. I think Malachi Ziegler would be a guy to kind of watch in that regard. So a lot of time, obviously, but Ziegler's one to watch for sure with Jace Johnson committing to Texas A&M. Ed wants to know, how do the Vols and Syracuse stack up against one another? We did the Scouting the Opponent series one day last week, so I took a look at Syracuse. I know it's going to be week 1. I know it's a neutral site game. I know Tennessee's got a ton of questions, but Syracuse is not going to be good. Syracuse lost a great quarterback, 2 running backs, a tight end, a couple of wide receivers. Their entire offense that was really good a season ago is on to the National Football League or to the transfer portal. Defensively, it wasn't good last year. Had to rely on the offense. I trust Tennessee's roster so much more. And again, I've said this, and I've been on record saying this. I don't know who starts at the quarterback for Tennessee, but I think Tennessee can win that game by 2 touchdowns on a neutral site. Let's go to Trevor. What position group are you most excited about this season? I've already kind of talked about it a few times today, the tight end position group. And this week will tell us a lot. Sometimes we get over our skis a little bit, get excited about some of these freshmen, Desan Brame, Jack Van Dorselaer. Jack Van Dorselaer, from a physicality standpoint, kind of proved that he's further along in that regard in spring ball. Brame missed an awful lot. He's been phenomenal in space to begin camp, but this week should tell us, how he is in the inline stuff and, of course, in the scrimmage. So not going to anoint anybody anything, but tight end would 100% be my answer to that. I'm stoked about the tight end position. Also love the linebacker position and love the corners and the defensive line. I really, really like those are kind of my power rankings, I guess, in terms of position groups that I like. 2 more here. Let's go to Bruce. What is up with our O-line? Have we been recruiting O-linemen, or have we gone full Derek Dooley and not recruited linemen? The worry is that our O-line is completely new and heard that we lack depth. No, Tennessee's recruiting offensive linemen. Tennessee's in it for 5-star Darius Gray. I don't know if Tennessee's going to land him, obviously. I think Tennessee, got J.B. Shabazz, Gabriel Ascenda, some others in that regard. I think Tennessee's done a really good job on the offensive line. David Sanders is going to start for you. Jesse Perry's in the fold right now. I'm trying to think of some high school guys. Of course, no high school recruit has started yet in the Josh Heupel era on the offensive line. I recognize that. But no, recruiting offensive linemen, yes, for sure. Depth-wise, I like the interior depth, and hopefully Bennett Warren can prove that he can be the swing man at tackle, and we'll see what happens. Bruce, as always, man, I appreciate you. We'll end the mailbag portion here with Sawyer. How many guys are currently on the Tennessee baseball roster with a 34-man limit? Just how much more difficult is managing that number going to be given when the draft falls? Sawyer, it's why they make the big bucks, man. I couldn't do it. It's such a pain in the butt, right? Currently, right now, I have Tennessee. I've got a spreadsheet here. I've got Tennessee at 42 players. Okay? 34-man rosters. Remember, they are allowing some designated student-athlete tags to kind of be grandfathered in for some of these players that would have had a spot but might miss out on the 34-man roster. The question is, how many of those DSAs is each administration going to allow to be on campus? Okay, the thought was they wanted Tennessee to have 34 on fall, to be here for fall, 34. That number's not going to be 34. It's going to be bigger than that. Is it going to be 37? Could it be anywhere close to 40? I've heard that it could be between 37 and 40 total. that still puts Tennessee over by at least 2. Probably more than that, given it likely won't be 40, maybe somewhere between 37 and 40. So Tennessee's got some work to do to trim down that roster. I don't have an answer for it yet, and I think it's still very much a work in progress, but it is very, very annoying trying to, especially this year, it all happened at once. I would have went like, okay, your roster needs to be, 40 total plus the DSAs this year, and then 35 the next year, and then down to 34. You go from 51 to 34. That's a big time jump, and obviously it meant a lot of guys entered the transfer portal. All right, that is going to do it here for the mailbag edition of the show. Everydayers, can't thank you enough for sending in those questions. We do it every single week right here on Locked On Vols. When we come back, scouting the opponent. How good are the Georgia Bulldogs this season? The Week 3 opponent at Neyland Stadium. It's going to be a massive one. We'll break it all down coming up next right here on Locked On Vols. Stay tuned. Time to fuel up and turn it up with 5-Hour Energy Transfusion. It brings the bold grape ginger, the lime flavor of your favorite golf drinks, minus the alcohol, quick into action with an energizing shot. Whether you're sinking birdies or just making memories with friends, this one's a hole-in-one for your energy game. Let's be honest, some days on the golf course and off it, you just need that extra boost to stay sharp and to stay energized, right? I mean, right now I'm going through fall camp. Got to do the show every day. Got to do my ridings. Got to be over there covering practices. Got a newborn at the house. There's a lot going on right now, and I get tired towards the end of the day. So if I still have tasks on the to-do sheet and I'm not feeling very energized, check out 5-Hour Energy. They've always got my back, and totally they can have yours as well. Check it all out right here. If you go to 5hourenergy.com today, that is the number 5. hourenergy.com. You can use my promo code LOCKEDONGOLF to receive 20% off your order. This offer is only valid through September 30th on one order, cannot be used with other promotions. The code is not good on subscription orders. Whether you're meeting up with friends or trying to turn 18 holes into 36, get energizing boost that you need to power through. You can do it now by ordering Transfusion flavored 5-Hour Energy shots today. Transfusion flavored 5-Hour Energy shots today. Check it all out today at 5hourenergy.com. All right, guys, we're going to be quick here in segment number 3 because I went a little overboard there with the mailbag questions and with Ryan Schumpert, but let's dive down into our Scouting the Opponent series. We're at Week 3, okay? It is the SEC opener and the second home game of the season, and it is a massive one. It is the Georgia Bulldogs. Kirby Smart, his 10th season, has a record of 105-19 with the Bulldogs, won a couple national championships, couple SEC championships. Last year, 11-3, 6-2 in SEC play. Remember, won the SEC championship game over Texas, was in the college football playoff, and if not for an injury at quarterback potentially, and not for a sour run game, maybe they could have been much better than where they were. Georgia has come down a little bit, obviously, from winning back-to-back national titles, but still very, very good. Still one of the upper echelon programs in the country for sure, and is going to be the hardest opponent probably, if not it's one of, but it's probably the hardest opponent on Tennessee's schedule this season. That game's going to take place at Neyland Stadium, again, the SEC opener, the home SEC opener general, September the 13th, Week 3, an early Tennessee and Georgia matchup at the beginning of September. Tennessee, of course, has lost this game in the series 8 straight years, dating back to the Dobbs nail boot 2016, the miracle between the hedges there with the Hail Mary to Juwan Jennings. Tennessee has lost 8 straight since that win. Georgia is the only team that Josh Heupel's failed to have success against, while being here at Tennessee. Josh Heupel has beaten Alabama twice. Josh Heupel's beaten Florida twice. Josh Heupel has not beaten Georgia yet. Can this be the year? We'll see. Georgia on paper, better than Tennessee. Georgia recruiting class on top of recruiting class on top of recruiting class is better than what Tennessee's had. However, just like Tennessee, man, Georgia's got some questions. And I'm not big on Gunnar Stockton. I'm just not. He got some big real-time experience last year, specifically in the SEC championship game, in the college football playoff. Had a massive turnover there in that playoff game against Notre Dame that led to a score there in the first half. But I'm not sold on Gunnar Stockton. I'm just not. And Georgia last year, it couldn't run the football. And I think that's a big reason why Carson Beck struggled so much. Didn't struggle against Tennessee. But Georgia was 15th in the league in rushing last year. Just abysmal, right? I mean, the offensive line that Georgia had to say goodbye to 4 starters on the offensive line from last year. Couldn't even run the football last year. which is very, very surprising. But you look at some of the returning talent. Nate Frazier, who actually had pretty good numbers last year despite not being able to run the football. 631 yards rushing, 8 touchdowns, average 5 yards per carry. That's not bad. Bringing back Branson Robinson, who was hurt for most of the year, only 76 yards on the year, but he was hurt last year. Wide receiver Dylan Bell, who's kind of like a utility knife for them, Swiss Army knife. He does a little bit of everything. 43 receptions, 466 through the air, 4 touchdowns. A couple tight ends. What you know about Georgia, they love tight end play. And last year, Oscar Delp was not very good, but boy, you had the emergence of Lawson Lucky. Both those guys, 24 receptions, 21 receptions respectively. Lucky had 348 receiving, 3 touchdowns. Delp had 248 receiving and 4 touchdowns. A little bit of a letdown year for Delp, but Georgia's always going to have not one but 2 really good tight ends. And once again, they've got those in their experience this year as well. On the offensive line, sure, had to say goodbye to 4 starters on the offensive line. However, Everest Green, he started the first 7 games at left tackle and then missed the last 5-6 games or whatever it was due to injury. He's going to move to the right tackle this year, and the guy that took his spot when he got hurt, Feeling, I think that's his name. He started the final 5 games at left tackle, and he's going to be the starting left tackle there. So they're kind of returning 2 starters up front, I guess. Defensively, C.J. Allen feels like he's been there forever at linebacker. He comes back. He was 76 tackles, second on the team a season ago. Safety K.J. Bolden, one-time Tennessee target in the recruiting ranks. Really, really good player. Really good player. Started every game as a true freshman last year. I believe he was a freshman All-American and then some. He had 59 tackles. At cornerback, they're returning their leading interception getter and Dylan Everett. Also returning Daniel Harris at corner, returning their star player. Their secondary's really good, returning a lot of experience. They've got production at linebacker and C.J. Allen that's coming back. And up front, they lost a couple of first-rounders for sure, but Georgia recruits the defensive line so well each and every year. So a lot of talent coming back to Georgia, don't get me wrong, but look at all they lost. You got Carson Beck, of course, that went to Miami. He had a down year statistically last year. I think it's because of the lack of the running game. Saying about 4 starters on the offensive line, including one of those second-round pick, Tate Ratledge. Couple of first-rounders on the defensive line, Michael Williams and Javon Walker, they're gone. Chaz Chambliss, Tyron Ingram Dawkins, all those guys up front in the front 7, all they are gone to the NFL. Damon Williams, former 5-star prospect on the edge. He transferred to Missouri. Look at the additions for Georgia that brought in via the transfer portal. Really good one from Illinois. Leading rusher last year with 10 touchdowns, 600 yards. Josh McKay. He's coming in to be that 1-2 punch with Nate Frazier in the backfield. Noah Thomas from Texas A&M, very productive wide receiver. 8 touchdowns, 574 through the air, 39 receptions. He's coming in to Georgia this year. Zachariah Branch, Tennessee was in on him. Former 5-star recruit, like number 3 in the nation, number 1 wide receiver, number 1 athlete. He has not performed to that ranking, but he's been solid, right? I mean, he's been productive, I guess. In 2 years at USC, 78 receptions, 823 yards, 3 touchdowns. So those are the big offseason acquisitions. Georgia, again, I just kind of went through it there. Still very, very talented. They're going to have questions for Tennessee. Can you steal that game early in the year? You're going to have questions, no doubt, but you're going to be at home. I mean, in front of the home crowd. They're going to be rocking. Neyland's going to be jam-packed. It's going to be live. It's going to be awesome. Georgia's got some questions early in the year, as do you, but can you steal that game at home? That's going to be the challenge, and we'll see what happens there. Week 3 against Tennessee's probably Tennessee's toughest opponent all year long in the Georgia Bulldogs. All right, that is going to do it for this edition of Locked On Vols. Appreciate you guys being here, making Locked On Vols your first listen, your first watch each and every single day. A part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Again, your team every single day. Every dayers couldn't do this show without you. Coming up tomorrow, we'll see about Ward Wednesday, practice in the morning, so our normal recording time with Josh is not going to be happening, so we'll see if I can connect with Josh later in the day. Maybe it'll be on Thursday, but nonetheless, Tennessee football fall camp getting back to practice later this morning, tomorrow as well before the off day, and then Friday, Saturday too. Got coverage for you right here on Locked On Vols. Thank you so much for being here. Same time, same place. Let's do it again tomorrow, everybody. Free and available as well, wherever you get your podcast. Tell that Tennessee friend, that fan in your life that this is the show for them. This is Locked On Vols.